journey, things like that, showing you how to make more, save more, and grow more. And not only that, protect it. But today we're going to go offbeat a little bit, I guess off the beaten path. We're going to talk about, what may be holding you back. And a lot of people have a good enough attitude and they're missing out on so much potential. And it's called opportunity cost of what it's costing you on your financial journey, not only your financial journey, but just your overall journey and being the best that you can be. And we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds. So grab a pen and paper and get ready to take some notes. So welcome back, everybody, to another Money Move. So you look at kind of where you're at in life. And, Wendy, you and I had a conversation with the team, over the weekend and things like that, looking at really, are you, not you, Wendy, but you, the listener, are you really where you thought you'd be at this point in your life? Are you accomplishing the things that you want? Not only financially, which is, obviously a big key component of our show, but just in general terms. Right. That's a big power move. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and our kind of question that you posed to us is that good enough, right? Do you feel content? And I think contentment and complacency are actually two different things. So I would say, are you complacent, right? Like some people think, oh, yeah, this is probably all there is, or, kind of get to that place where they're comfortable and no longer striving to move forward. And, I think about like kids, my kids, I know all parents, right? You talk to your kids when they're young and they have these big dreams of all these things they're going to accomplish. It's like, as we grow, we just start to lose that sometimes.
Yeah. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with, comparing ourselves to others. And don't get me wrong, I believe in competition. I think competition's good as long as it's healthy competition, not over the top. But we start comparing ourselves to others, that are some of us, our sphere of influence and stuff like that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And I think, what happens is Mr. Good Enough or Mrs. Good Enough, Ms. Good Enough, whatever, really can hold us back because we think, well, I'm doing better than my next door neighbor. I'm doing better than Joe down the aisle. Right. And so I'm doing good. And that's really, they're not living up to their potential either. So why would you compare yourself to that? And I think a better comparison would be to who you were yesterday and where you are on your journey, your goal map, things like that. So we're going to talk about 5 areas today that you should really focus on in becoming that person that you really want to be, living up to your full potential. And obviously the first one is going to deal with finances and income and things like that in your job or your business or businesses. Are you really approaching it? Are you leaving it all on the field every day? Yeah. And I think a lot of us, we get to a certain point, like you were just talking, we get to a certain point where, I'm doing good, but am I doing great? Am I being the best? Am I leaving it all on the field, to use a sports vernacular, every day? Right. Not killing yourself. You got to have that work-life balance. That's not what I'm talking about. But when I'm at work or when I'm in my business mode, as an entrepreneur, am I at 100% capacity? Am I contributing 100%? Or am I going, okay, well, I just need to get this done and then I'm good enough?
Right. Yeah. I think too, especially I would say corporate days too, right? My corporate days, it was like, I would come into a new job all fired up. I'm going to show them. And then you kind of get in your routine and you're like, oh, I'm hitting the goals, I'm hitting my KPIs, whatever. And I think as an entrepreneur, you can get sucked into that same thing. Like, especially, when you have life happen, right? We have a team and we're talking to our team, and the biggest struggle I feel like everybody is like life gets in the way, of building your business. And so I think to your point, like it's in that designated time. We don't mean work 24 hours a day as an entrepreneur, but in the time that you've allotted for your business, are you scrolling social media or are you prospecting, right? Are you checking emails or are you closing sales, right? Like what are you doing in that time? Is it really productive or not? Are we doing our best?
Yeah, exactly. And the social media thing is a big thing, right? I still joke with people that TikTok is Chinese for time suck, right? Because that's what happens. I mean, you hop in there and next thing you know, 30 minutes later, you scrolled away 30 minutes, and that's really kind of the thing. Are you managing? Are you being intentional with your time? Are you being intentional with your efforts, your attitudes, and things like that? And going back to what I was talking about earlier, do you have a clear goal on what you want to accomplish? And hopefully you do, whether it's KPIs, goals that were assigned to you, or, personal goals as an entrepreneur, because, you work for yourself. So don't buy your own BS and stick to those goals. And going back to the comparison, don't compare yourself to other people. Like if you're the best on the team, maybe you're on the wrong team, right? If you're the big fish in a little pond, that's not really a place you want to be. Not that you need to leave, but I'm saying mentally leave that space, right? And go into, okay, I want to compete with those above me. I want to compete with those that are doing, and when you're in a entrepreneur type setting, especially you come from network marketing, find the person that's above you, take them off that list, like boom, I want to beat that person and that person and that person.
Yeah.
You pair up against your goals, and the comparison should really be, okay, here are my goals. Let's back into them. What do I need to do every day? How did I compare to that effort that I need to do daily to blow my goals away? Right? That needs to be the comparison. So, and the same thing on your income and your finance and things like that. Where do I want to be? What do I want to make this year? And don't say, well, I'm working in a job, so I can only make X. No, what do you want to make this year? And then find out a way, right? It's like that mental attitude. Oh, we can't afford it. The question should be, oh, how can we afford it? Right. And that's where create another stream of income, things like that. Don't settle for your environment. Right. Okay. Set your personal goals and then go for it in the financial world, the employment world, or whatever the case may be, and then figure out a way to make it happen. And then apply yourself daily to those goals. So that's kind of the first thing. And that was kind of the biggie. It took up a lot of time. So the second one is, where are you at from a health perspective?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you need to go out and kill it and be, super bodybuilder or whatever that case may be, but are you being healthy and not just working out? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the food. I mean, I know you bring up a lot about the food and stuff like that, what's going into our food here in the United States. Yeah. My son, Max, he just got back from a 2-week trip to Europe and he said the food was amazing. Yeah. And he goes, Dad, it was weird because it was like real food. Even the stuff that they have prepackaged and stuff like that, it was totally different than what is in the United States, which is sad. But that plays, you don't want to build an empire and have all this wealth and then you can't enjoy it because you're unhealthy, right?
Exactly. And I think as entrepreneurs, taking care of your body, taking care of, it's not just like you said, being fit and having muscles, right? But even just moving your body. This morning I got out and I went on a walk for 40 minutes, and just what it does even mentally to me to have that time. And it's scientific, right? Like we release certain hormones and when we're doing those activities that actually make us better in our jobs or in our business. And then to the same point, right, what we're fueling ourselves with. It's such a simple thing, but part of it is our culture. We eat for pleasure instead of eat for fueling. And so it's like making that mindset shift. And that's been a big focus for me this year, is like paying more attention to like what goes into my body when it comes to food and nutrition. So
yeah. Well, and it's key, right? Because that's a little bit, over time adds up to a lot. So that's the second thing is, what are you doing on your health goals? And like I said, set small goals and then achieve those, and then set a little bit bigger goals the next day and things like that, and then start working towards it. And ask yourself, go through this stuff on a scale of 0 to 5. Where am I standing, right? 25 is the best, right? And then a little trick is just kind of treat it like school. Okay, well, if I only got 15 out of 25 points, that's like a D average, right? So, again, kind of ask yourself, am I living up to my full potential? So number 3 is, how is your self-improvement journey? You should constantly be seeking to grow. And, I use an analogy a lot of a fish in a fishbowl or a fish in a fish tank, right? If that fish is set in a small bowl, it's not going to get very big because it's going to grow to its environment. You and I are the same way, right? And so you want to constantly be improving, constantly being seeking out new ideas. And it's difficult, especially in a society where you've got so much noise coming at you on think this way, no, think that way, think that way. You need to do your own homework, come to your own conclusions about everything in life, right? And constantly be seeking to grow through self-improvement books, through meditation. One of my big things is I like to read my Bible, right? And I get a lot out of that. And so it's just constantly looking at how can I grow, not only mentally, but how can I grow spiritually, whatever that journey is for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I'm at my best when I start my day with that moving my body and the personal development. And yeah, I'm with you. Like, to me, the Bible is the best place to go. Even this morning, went on my walk, I started to put on some like workout music, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to listen to something spiritual, something that's going to get me and my mind focused where it needs to be, right, on the Lord. And so I think that's huge. But that personal development, I think we talked about this our last book club, but I did not read a personal development. I didn't read a book, period, after graduating high school for, I don't know, probably 12 years. And it was when I became an entrepreneur, I started reading. And now, like, I can't imagine not. Like, I have 3 books going at all times. So one Audible, one on my Kindle, and one hard copy, but that learning, I went through a course on Saturday. I purchased this course that talked about SEO and Instagram. And I was mind blown. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. And in such a short amount of time. Like, we don't realize how blessed we are to live in this day and age where we have knowledge at our fingertips. Like, we can learn anything we want to learn by going on the internet. The difference is, like, how are we going to use it? Right? Are we going to apply it?
Exactly. I mean, you want to learn it, come up with a plan, and then apply it. That's the key. But that constant self-improvement, and that's where, you're right. We're blessed to live in not only a time, but the country that has the most opportunity, I think, of all, the ability to go out and become, an entrepreneur or whatever, while you have your quote unquote day job. But the question is, are you willing to put in the time to do it? You've got to roll up your sleeves and put in the work. And that's really goes back to what we're talking about today is, is a good enough attitude holding you back? Well, that's going to take extra time or what? Yeah, it is. You've got to make changes in order to experience change in your future, right? That's kind of the key. So, how is your self-improvement journey? Are you doing a book? I mean, we do a book club every Wednesday. You, the viewer, are more than welcome to join it. It's public. We have several people sitting in on it. We're reading a great book right now called Extreme Ownership, taking accountability on your success. I mean, that's the thing. All of your wins are the result of what you did. Same thing with your failures, though. And, that's not a bad thing. Failures are how you learn, and it's making sure you look at it like that. But again, it's that extreme ownership, and you're more than welcome to join us on our book club. But make sure you're experiencing that personal journey as well. Number 4 is, how are you as a leader? Well, I'm not a leader. I just have a job. I'm not talking about a leader in the sense of, your business career. I am talking about your career as well, because even though you may not have a title of manager or assistant vice president, whatever, people are looking for leaders to follow. So you may be a peer leader, right? Same thing with your kids. If you have kids, you're a parent, you're a leader. They're following your lead. They're going to turn out how you teach them to be, right? Exactly. You see that sometimes walking through a store, kids freaking out or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, their parents taught them to behave that way, or allow them to behave that way, one or the other. So, you look through that, and it's like, what type of leader are you becoming? Are you being a good leader? Are you learning how to be a better leader? Things like that. And what is your aspect of that? I know, you lead a team, Wendy, I think you're solid, but some of those aspects of people need to be led. And I don't mean that in a negative, derogatory sense, but if you're raising your hand and say, let me teach you, just like you were talking about, right? You need to help them and help them be accountable and have the good conversations as well as the not so good conversations, right?
Yeah. We're all leaders, and we're all followers of somebody, right?
Exactly.
And so it's, what level are you, right? Like, I love, for anyone that wants to learn more about leadership, obviously John Maxwell is one of the experts, but he talks about the different levels of leadership. And, you know, I want to be a level 5 leader, and I can't say I am in all aspects right now. I think I have been at times to certain people, but I want to get to that level 5 all the time, you know, in the areas that are important to me. And yeah, so it's, you know, being a leader means thinking outside of just yourself, which, and becoming an entrepreneur is what taught me that. Like prior to being an entrepreneur, I'm like, you know, I'm in it for me kind of thing, kind of attitude. And then being an entrepreneur and building a team, I'm like, I don't win unless my team wins. Right. And so now how can I help my team win? And then you've helped me with, you know, I'm kind of like, oh, just go, like, I want to inspire, but I never like had the hard conversations. And so now I'm growing as a leader by learning how to have the more difficult conversations. And because if I truly do care about other people's success, it's not just feel good all the time and inspire. It's also like cold, hard truth of reality of where you're at and what you need to do to change too. So,
well, and that's the key, right? Is to have that conversation in such a way where it's like, look, you know, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
Let me explain what's going on or what I see coming in from the outside. Because sometimes we get in our own way, but you need to have those hard conversations. It's like having food in your teeth, right? You know, a lot of people, if you have food in your teeth, they don't want to tell you because they're embarrassed for you or whatever the case may be. I don't know about you. If I have food in my teeth, tell me.
Please tell me.
Right?
Please tell
me.
And
as long as you approach that same attitude towards, you know, if you see something I need to do to be better, tell me, help me, right? And, you know, sometimes we get lost in that politeness or whatever, or we don't want to get involved or whatever the case may be. And that's a sign of a weak leader, to be frank. And that's not who you want to be, right? And not that you need to be a bully. And there's all different types of leaders. There's a lot of great books going back to, you know, leaders or readers kind of thing about how to be an effective leader and whatnot. But this is stuff that, you know, works with your children as well. I mean, one of the things I met a gentleman a few years ago by the name of Greg Kapp, right? And he always talked about pouring greatness into your children. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? You know, and I thought I was a pretty good parent up to that point. And I was fortunate enough that the timing, my kids were still really, really young. My oldest is 24 now. And I think he was like 7 or 8 at the time I met Greg. And so it was kind of that critical time of being able to pour greatness. And, you know, they hear all the time of don't do this. No, you can't, you know, stuff like that. Not that you don't want to put parameters and boundaries up, but if that's all they hear, that can be an issue for down the road. Right. And so I would always constantly tell them, you know, you're going to do great things, you know, this, or whenever they ran into an obstacle, we talk about it, or failure, talk about it, learn from it, and then say, okay, but here's how this is going to apply to you down the road. And again, pouring greatness into them, not false ego, not the participation trophy kind of deal, but really true learning. And, you know, I'm proud of all 3 of them. They've done some great stuff in their own aspects and things like that. But, you know, again, going back to that, you know, that helping one another, that leading, you got to have the good conversations about. And that kind of leads me to the last item, which is, you know, I think one of the foundations of all of this stuff, you know, the Mr. Good Enough and things like that, is your sphere of influence. And I'm not talking about the number of followers you have on TikTok or anything like that. What I'm talking about is the group that you hang out with, right? Going back to John Maxwell, he made a comment that you're an average of the 5 people that you hang out with most, right? And so it may be that you're accepting, well, my group is good enough, and these are my friends, and we're all like doing the same thing. And look around. I almost guarantee that you're an average of the 5 people you hang out with. You probably have somebody doing a little better, a couple people doing a little worse. You're all kind of talking about the same stuff, doing the same stuff on the weekends, and voting for the same people and stuff like that. So again, if you don't change your environment, you're going to have a hard time changing who you are and becoming the person that you can be or want to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is to me one of the biggest things ever. Like, and that's, you know, again, going back to when I got involved in network marketing, showing up to the events was a life-changing thing for me. To be around, like, I'll never forget my first earned trip, right? Like, they paid for my cruise and then I had to pay for everything else. But I go on this cruise, and I'm sitting down next to, it was the first time in my life I was surrounded by millionaires. I've never hung out with millionaires, right? Or maybe like net worth millionaires because of their house or something, but true, like making $1 million plus a year.
Yeah.
And surrounded by them and listening to the conversations. And I was like, they talk at a level I'm not there yet. Right. Like, and that's where I want to be. And it really, I think is one of the greatest things you can do is put yourself, maybe your sphere right now, right? Like maybe you're married to somebody who's not supportive or brings you down, or maybe, you've got parents or siblings or whatever in your ear, or maybe you might need to change your best friend, right? Like who you're hanging out with every weekend. Like I mean, I had to do that. I had to change the people I was hanging out with, and
same.
They weren't growing and I wanted to grow. And so, but finding ways to put yourself in rooms with people that are where you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you and I have even gone to conferences together, right? Where we're with mastermind people that are doing big things, and it's inspirational. And sometimes it's, you look at them and go, if they can do that, I can do that. Right. Like,
well, that's the reality of it, right? Yeah. That's the reality of it. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. And that's the thing. I mean, you get around people that are making $500,000, 750,000 a year, $1 million a year, right? And they're talking about it like, yeah, doesn't everybody? I mean, it's like no big deal. And so all of a sudden what happens is, because you've leveled up your sphere of people that you're hanging around, it becomes normal to you. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, they're doing it, I can do it. And that believability in yourself, that, shedding off the Mr. Good Enough attitude and things like that, you're constantly challenging them. If your sphere of influence is talking more about, the hangover or the party of the weekend, as opposed to what are you doing to build your business, or what are you doing to build yourself? What are you doing to grow? You're probably in the wrong, group, right? If you want something better for yourself, if you're happy with it, then, God bless you, go at it. Right. And it's not saying that you need to cut them out and say, okay, well, I'm never talking to you again. You're not good enough for me. No, not that at all. I mean, I've still got, friends that I used to talk to and things like that. I still talk to them. I still go grab a beer with them on occasion and things like that. But as far as a daily influx, that's not who I'm hanging out with anymore, because I've grown beyond that. I want to grow and continue to grow. I want to hang out with people that, man, I really want to crack $5 million in revenue this year. It's like, okay, well, how are we going to do that? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And start brainstorming ideas and things like that. And all of a sudden your mental attitude of, hey, I'm going for this. Well, even if you land short of that, you're still going to be way ahead of where you were back in the good enough days. Right.
Yep.
And so that sphere of influence, and I agree. I think that's one of the keys. That's one of the cornerstones, because you can do all the other things in the world, but if you've got people that are, quite frankly, holding you back, and they may not be intentionally holding you back, right? They may be telling you, oh, don't worry about that. Just be content, settle, right? And it feels good at the time, especially if you experience failure and things like that. It's like, oh, okay. It's like when you skinned your knee and mom came over, right? Until she whipped out the mercurochrome. But it's one of those things that, it's not who you want to be. You've got to go through these pains. You've got to go through challenges. You've got to go through failures. That's how you learn forward, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you go through those experiences and learn. So just to kind of recap, number one, ask yourself, and I would challenge each of you to rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 5. 5, you're crushing it. You're leaving everything on the field. You can't get any better. 0, yeah, I'm not really doing anything in that aspect. And, keep it to yourself. It's not a comparison, right? It's just, this is your starting point. Okay. Number one, how are you approaching your business and your finances? And business may be as an employee or your own business. Number two, how are you in your health aspect? Not only working out, but eating right. Number three, how is your self-improvement, your journey going there? Are you leaning in? Are you really trying to improve yourself, not only physically, but mentally too? Number four, how are you as a leader? Whether it's as a parent, a friend, a manager at work, or whatever, how are you as your leadership skills? Okay. And what are you doing about it? Number 5 is, how is your sphere of influence? Are they challenging you to be better? Are they kind of in it with you, kind of battle buddy type of an approach? Or is it just, they're just getting by and I'm getting by and we're all talking about, when's the next episode of X coming on, right? Mm-hmm. And so ask yourself this, and then, the highest is 25, right? So however many points out of 25, do that division, and that's your score. Okay, that's your percentage. And think back to when you were in high school and stuff, and then kind of go from there. Is that who you want to be? And if it is, God bless you, go get it, right? Be happy with it. But if it's not, now you know one of the areas that you need to work in and start working on, and find ways, seek that out, right? There's a lot of online networking groups, stuff like that. We do the book club. I mean, there's a lot of different ways out there that you can get connected and start leveling up.
Absolutely. I love
Go
that.
ahead, Wendy.
No, it was just good stuff. And, you know, we talked about this too, but offline, but looking at this is something that as we went through this, I'm like, I need to do this every day, right? I need to take a quick, you know, run through at the end of every evening and go, how did I do today in these areas? Because it's that consistent focus and the little bit every day of improving that's going to get you to where you want to be. Otherwise, it's going to be a year from now, you'll rate yourself again and be like, oh, I haven't changed. Right. So it's that
another year gone,
daily,
you know, another year is gone. So, and that's the thing. And I would challenge you not to do it at the end of the day, maybe do it after lunch and then at the end of the day. So that way you can make some adjustments if you need to. So, and it's quick. I mean, it's not anything you need to, and don't beat yourself up. You know, it's one of those things that, and I made this comment too. If you keep hitting yourself, one of these days, you're going to hit yourself so hard, you're going to drop out, and you don't want to do that. That's truly when people fail, is when they stop trying. Right. Exactly. And so, you know, just focus on improving on the person you were from yesterday, right? 1%. 1% improvement every day within 100 days, a little over 3 months, you've improved 100%. By the end of the year, you're 300% better than you were at the beginning of the year, just by doing 1% a day, guys. So, you know, again, just keep focusing on it, keep moving forward. Hopefully this helped you. If it did, do us a favor, give us a like, give us some love, right? That helps our algorithms, and share the content with those that are around. And if you want to catch all of our past video episodes, you can go to blackswanmoney.com. That's our YouTube channel, or you can catch us on your favorite podcast too. We're out there on Spotify and Apple Music, I think, and some others. I'm not sure of all of them, but we're out there, and you know, give us some love. And if you have an idea, that you want to hear, let us know. We'd love to talk about it and dive into it. And we are looking for some people to interview, so specifically in the mortgage space. So if you're a mortgage producer, we'd love to hear from you. And make sure you've got some credentials, not just, hey, I just started a mortgage and I'm looking for leads. That's not who we want to talk to. But I'd love to talk to you. So reach out to us. Again, Jon Cleaver, Wendy Lee. Hope we're helping you out making your money moves. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.